Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So, it's that time of year again. The next expansion for World of Warcraft has been launched, and it really does feel like a complete departure from what we have seen before, in a way that personally I think is extremely fresh. So, let's just get to it. The new expansion for World of Warcraft is World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth, and as the name pretty much implies, it's a big war between the Alliance and the Horde. So while we do have a core theme that is quite different from what we've seen before, there are of course some familiar features. We will be seeing some new races, we will be seeing new continents, and a host of new features. First though, let's just talk about the actual structure of the story, because it is very interesting. Now, a little bit ago, about 2 days ago, the initial story from Christie Golden's upcoming World of Warcraft novel, which is a prelude to this, leaked. And it basically said that Sylvanas was planning to attack Stormwind. Fast forward to today, and not only do we get to see the new in-game trailer, but we also get to see what is frankly, I think, the best Blizzard cinematic they've ever made, at least for World of Warcraft, where we basically see full-on war between the factions, with the Alliance seemingly led by both Genn and Anduin trying to retake the Undercity from Sylvanas. Though we don't only see that, we also see Teldrassil, the home of the Night Elves, on fire. Of course, a bit of a downside of living in a giant tree is, as it turns out, someone can set it on fire, which seems to have happened to them, and all of this has sparked off a massive war between the factions. We also see Jaina Proudmoore stepping up to the plate as a major character for the Alliance. We've seen her in major roles before, but now she's got a new model. She really does seem like one of the key heroes of this expansion, and we actually do get to see Anduin live up to a little bit of the promise of the patch 7.2 cinematic, where he's actually got his father's strength in battle, but then is able to bring in the sort of battle priest elements. Overall, a hell of a trailer that really does set up what seems to be an extremely interesting expansion. For me, I think it's a decently brave place to take the game's story. We were pretty much set up for quite a lot of Void-related conflict, and I still do personally suspect that there will be Void operating in the background while this war is going on, but this does feel like a more traditional sort of story for World of Warcraft, and my real hope with that is that they will be able to explore the characters in more depth. Essentially, when you're not dealing with angry Space Satan, well, instead they can really deal with the character conflict, and hopefully we'll get a more interesting story. But let's talk about the actual content that's going to be coming in this new expansion pack. So first of all, sub-races are pretty much coming. So what's pretty cool is that for the Horde, we're going to be getting Zandalari trolls. Yep, that's quite a big one. We're also going to be getting Nightborn. Essentially, the connection there is that the Nightborn have a shared sort of addiction, a magic addiction problem with the Blood Elves, which gives them a lot to sort of work with as allies. And then the High Mountain Tauren are being added as well for the Horde, which pretty much makes sense, given that, well, they're Tauren. Now, for the Alliance, we are going to be seeing Void Elves, which is pretty awesome. I assume they're led by Ilaria. We're also going to be seeing Lightforged Draenei, which is pretty awesome, and also Dark Iron Dwarves. I know that's something people have been really wanting for quite a while, and, well, you're finally going to get it with Battle for Azeroth. These are actually going to be starting at level 20, so I guess that gives you a little bit of a leg up. Okay, so let's talk about the new continents that we're going to be exploring. Yep, I said continents. 2. And yeah, what's cool here is, first of all, we're getting 2 different places. That means, I think, more than normal, we'll be seeing more diverse tile sets, which is pretty great. And those 2 places are TIRAS and Zandalar, 2 really big areas that we have not seen in-game yet. So for TIRAS, we've got 3 new zones. There's the Tiragard Sounds, Drustvar, and then Stormsong Valley. And essentially the way this is being done is that this is an Alliance focus. Now, TIRAS is very important in the lore historically, especially with Warcraft 2. Essentially, as we move on in time, they were involved with Warcraft 3. Jaina is the daughter of their leader who died around the end of Warcraft 3, and that really is where Jaina is likely going to be coming in as a main character. Now, for the Horde, their focus is Zandalar. So we get Zuldazar, which is the main city of the Zandalari Trolls, as one of the zones. We get Nazmir as another zone, and then Vol'dun as one of the other zones. So overall, we're getting 6 new zones in this expansion, which, at least numerically, is more than what we saw with Legion, and they do seem to be quite expansive, in-depth zones, but of course we will have to wait and see what that's like. Now, Blizzard have posted a 30-minute long demo of the zones actually sort of in action. I believe it's commented by Lore. That's very interesting because it definitely suggests that this expansion is really in quite a good state with its development. Okay, I want to talk about boats. So I did jokingly make a video, and a part of that I was saying, boats, the expansion's going to have boats. One of my ideas was you could basically plunder islands and sort of do little mini scenarios. We don't exactly know the extent of the boats, but here's what's the core thing. You basically go to visit islands. It seems to me a little bit like the invasion points. Once again, we're going to have to see. But it is one of those new core features, and what I like about it is it could add a bit more to the single-player element of the game, and maybe multiplayer. If they could get that going, it would be pretty great. We also have a new system called Warfront. So this is a co-op 20-player focused mode which is surrounding the faction war. It kind of reminds me of some sort of RTS and MOBA elements from what I've seen of the footage. Looks very, very cool indeed, and what particularly interests me is it's the Warcraft team really showing a new feature, something that we have not seen before. And that's really what I wanted from this expansion, a new feel rather than just updates to the previous things that we had. Now, we are actually getting a new artifact equivalent that will be powering up with traits. It's not a weapon, though. Essentially, Magni is going to be gifting us an amulet from the Heart of Azeroth. Of course, if you think about all the stuff that happens after the Antorus raid, that all sort of fits in. So that's how we're going to be sort of dealing with our endgame progression for our characters once we've actually hit the max level. And of course, the max level is 120. There are some other things teased, such as a new in-game communities feature, a level 110 boost, and then of course, new dungeons and raids, and I've got to assume that Mythic Plus is also going to be there. So, now that this is a sort of broad overview of the expansion done, what are my thoughts? Basically, it's exactly what I wanted from an expansion. Now, I know that a lot of people, when I previously talked about the idea of an alliance and horde war, were not really the biggest fans of that. For me, I think that we were getting very science fiction-y, very, the game was just getting extremely big in terms of the themes and the stuff that it was dealing with. And what I often found is that maybe some of the character depth and stuff like that was a little bit lost. I almost see this as a bit of a reset. I mean, if you think about, as an example, the Warcraft 3 trailer, both races clashing, it goes back to a lot of the core Warcraft themes that people will have remembered from quite a long time ago. And what I particularly find cool about that is they can use this to re-establish the feel of the modern game in terms of its story and its narrative, and then sort of move it on from there. So I think it's a very good move to, for the game's future. Because if we just went from fighting Sargeras to then fighting Old Gods and then fighting Void, it would just sort of, again, feel like, oh, it's the big space villain of the day is coming to kill us. So I think this is a pretty interesting way of doing things, and you know what, maybe just a little bit brave as well. Of course, we will have to see as the patches roll out, will there be more Old God sort of things in there? If you look closely at the gameplay trailer, you can see there are some Old God looking dudes running about, so that will likely be one of the subplots that you'll be seeing. Now, the release date's very interesting to me. We'll probably find out more as the con goes on. I'd imagine no actual firm release date, but as I said, they seem to have quite a lot of the zones playable in that demo that we saw. Now, of course, it's possible to smoke and mirrors a lot of things, but that's definitely encouraging as to the state of this game's development. So that's where I'm going to leave off this video. Essentially, we're establishing the core themes of this expansion and the core feature set. My core sort of thought of it is I'm just really, really damn excited. I had to sort of breathe slowly for a few minutes after all the announcements were done before I made this video, so I didn't keel over halfway through. Yeah, this is going to be a very busy weekend for us on the channel. Right now, me and my editor Connell are pretty much shacked up in my house. We're going to be making videos all weekend long, giving you looks at the new content and all of that stuff. So of course, subscribe, stay tuned, and we should have a pretty damn immense time this weekend. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you stay with me for the rest of the con, and with that, I will see you next time.
Mm-hmm.